Hello, everyone. I'm Annie Gibbins, and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success, and what they have learned along the way. Hello and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. I'm super excited today to introduce you to Alexandria Nicole because we're going to be talking about all things diversity and inclusion, which is all about women's empowerment. We're going to link that to entrepreneurism. So I tell you what, Alexandria and I are in the same space. Alexandria is the chair of the Breckenridge Equity Advisory Commission and the founder of the national grassroots conversation, the Solidarity Talks. She's also the author of the Entrepreneur's Checklist, and we are going to talk about what it is like to be a woman of color, breaking these glass ceilings, getting your work published, getting your message out so that we can have true equality in this world. Welcome to the program, Alexandria.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Annie. I appreciate it.
Oh, I have been on summit platforms with you and linking up with you over the last couple of years. And so I'm really excited today to be able to tap into your story. And so I invite you to start telling the listeners of my program what has been your journey to right. First of all, let's just talk about how did you actually get to write the Entrepreneur's Checklist? How about we start with now? You're on Amazon, you've got this great profile, you're representing women globally, but specifically in your area. And so you suddenly got this book out. How did that all come about?
Well, I started to develop the book because I wanted to have something that I wish I had when I started to open my businesses so many years ago. Because as we're opening businesses, we have to kind of grab information from this website and kind of piece it together. And I was just thinking one day, I wish there was just one finite way that you could grab something tangible and just go through the list of what it is that you need to do instead of kind of putting the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, if I can't find that, why don't I just make it and use it as a tool to help other people? So I started to develop the book, and it's no muss, no fuss. It's 26 pages. You get right to the point because I know also, too, a lot of people in the entrepreneurial space may still be working their 9 to 5. They
Yes.
may be juggling their day-to-day life, and they don't have the time to hear about my life story and my entire background before they get to the aspect that they're really looking for, right? Which is the tools to open their business. So I basically wrote it all down. I created an actual checklist so you can go through and you can also record all of your information and have it in one space where you can just go to it and reflect back to what your information is. Because me, I have notebooks with my EINs. I have this and that. It's all over the place, right? So I said I want to have something so people can just refer to it and start their business off on the right foot.
Oh, it is so important to actually, one, pass on those tips and tricks to those women coming after us. And I know that we have gone through the hard yards in our careers and our journeys. And it's like, oh my gosh, to get to this stage where you go, I could make this easy for you. Here's a checklist. This is all you need to know. And I know that from my incubator programs that I have with women, it's all that's right, bite size, step by step. You don't have to do the hard yards the way, we did. Often, or some of them you will. So we might as well save that for the real challenges and make some of the easier for you along the way. So tell us about your challenges then. So what has your journey been, and why has the journey been that you would love to help women make it a little bit simpler, easier for their journey?
Right. I think my journey's been challenging. And I think all of us have our ups and downs in life and in business. But for whatever reason, I feel like it's a part of my purpose and my calling is to put things in place to make other people's life easier. So
Mm,
if I can do that with some of the tools and the things that I've learned and apply that to helping other people along the way, I feel this responsibility to reach back behind me and help someone else in their journey. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because there have been a lot of times that my husband and I, we've been in our business, we've had to figure things out because financial literacy wasn't really a part of the conversations that either he or I had in our households growing up. So
Mhm.
that's something that we had to figure out on our own. So instead of perpetuating this energy of struggle, we can move forward and help other people kind of cut some corners and teach them how to get there. For example, I homeschool our daughters. We have a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old, and our oldest daughter has her own pet sitting business. She's 12. So we have conversations with her about how you can be successful, how you can start your own business. We have conversations about finances and the struggles that come with that, and some of the ways to avoid the struggles if you approach your relationship with money in the right way. I don't know how it is in Australia, but here in America, in our households, religion and finances are taboo.
Yeah.
But how are you going to persevere and be successful if talking about money isn't even on the table? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. I love that role modeling because that's exactly it. Whether it's a cultural norm that we just don't talk about, yeah, that's right. Politics, religion, and money,
Right,
generally.
right.
And I think that's a global problem. And it certainly is a problem if we actually don't have those conversations, because that's it. So many people go into businesses because they're passionate about it or because they need to, obviously get some income, but they're usually led by an element of that business that they actually just really love. However, underpinning that is the entrepreneurial journey, right? That's where you actually do need to be worried about your cash flow, your diversity of how you're actually going to get different revenue streams in. You've got to be able to know how you're going to manage that business. And when you haven't had that role modeling, that's where you can get unstuck in a big way, which doesn't just create problems on your business. It's going to create problems in your relationship, in your family, right? And so you
Absolutely.
must have had that sort of struggle where you're like, okay, your husband and you are in business, you're trying to make it happen, but you suddenly realize I don't actually know how to run a business.
Right. And that's where you have to really look within yourself and be accountable for where you are mentally,
Mm,
because there has to be a moment where there is a shift of your mindset,
mm,
where you remove all of the teachings from your path and you start to really evaluate the fact that you have to talk about finances.
mm,
If you are not aware of how to approach certain aspects of your business with capital and your business credit and all these various things that contribute to your success, you will continue to perpetuate the patterns of, well, I can't talk about this, it's nobody's business what my finances are, and therefore you won't feel comfortable going to an accountant, you won't want to get a bookkeeper, you still feel like you can't do a CPA, so you'll continue to just stay in a space of not being knowledgeable, and then you won't rise, you won't be able to scale your company. So it's problematic, but you have to be intentional about changing your mind frame around it.
mm. And I think a lot of that mind frame that you reference is because that's right. We can feel uncomfortable talking about money, or it's kind of like we're having this great discussion, and now I've got to talk about the invoice or how we're going to, how that's all going to happen. And so, that is obviously that is business. We're all here to obviously do what we love, but also to get that revenue in. And so it also gives you, once you've taken that step and you say, yes, this is how much it costs, and this is what you'll receive in this way, you're having those open transactional conversations. It also values the product that you're selling. It values you as a businesswoman. Do you find that? Like once you actually feel sort of break through, it's a big step. And I used to feel a lot more uncomfortable about it now too. Whereas now I'm doing a book anthology, for example, and people are asking them to pay a fee to be in my book, and it's actually like we have to have that conversation, so now we can get on to actually the creation, the all the great fun stuff. But you without that, there is no book, there is no publisher, there is no product, right? So it can be awkward, but it shouldn't be awkward. It should be an opportunity that says, great, now we can actually do business.
Absolutely. And if you don't value yourself, no one else is going to, right?
Yeah.
So there are people that are making $500,000 an hour, $2 million an hour, you know, and that's because they set their price. They feel confident in what it is that they do to add value to a certain
Mm.
space. And therefore they stand behind their price and they get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I think about that in those terms and the price points that people put on themselves, my $150 is just a drop in the bucket. So I should be proud of what I'm asking for, and I've earned it, and I have experience in the areas in which I'm talking about. But it is challenging to really put a price on yourself, right?
Mhm.
And it's hard to make that transition a lot of times for a lot of people, especially myself, in doing things for free, in segueing into asking for compensation for your time.
Yeah.
And that's where we circle back to the value, and really honoring who you are, what you have to offer, and staying true to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that example that you've used to with your child, a pet minding business, because that's exactly it. You've used your time to take those animals for a walk or wash them or bits and pieces. Your time is money, and needs to be valued. Or you've also used product on those pets, maybe, whether it's shampoos or blow dryers or other things. It's actually talking about the practical requirements of, if you want to have a product or a service, it actually will come with, that's right, what is the price to actually ask someone to do that service, and then what are all of your expenses, and whether it's actually just a 12-year-old learning about pet mining businesses, or you actually scale that, the principles are the same. And I think what we often do is we undervalue ourselves and what it actually takes. And I think you referenced that before. It's like when you put a price on something, particularly when, I'll happily say that as a business coach, because you don't have a product. If you're selling a product, a dishwasher or a oven or something, you actually go, this is how much the product costs. Whereas when you're the product, if you like, if you're giving a service, how did you actually come across that value, right? And so with that, some people go, well, this person is just so much cheaper. And you go, yeah, but they might not have, 40, 50,000 hours of expertise in a certain topic. Well, they might not have had these challenges that they overcame. The resume actually equates to the price. And so I agree with you. Those people who then go, no, this is what it actually is valued at, and I'm going to own that. People will pay it, because they'll also respect the quality of what they're actually asking for, if they've got the evidence.
And if they decide that they don't value you enough to pay what you ask, then that is not a relationship you need to be aligning yourself with anyway, right?
That is
And
100%
that's
true. Yes. Yeah.
and that's another one of the core reasons behind us being intentional with our daughters, and cultivating them to be entrepreneurs, is we never want them to operate from a space of desperation.
Mm.
We want them to know from a very young age that they are capable to make a way on their own. We want them to operate from a space and a mindset of abundance,
Yes.
because when you start to operate from desperation or a space of lack, then that starts to dictate your decisions that typically are not the greatest ones. So we
Yeah.
want them to know that they are the curator of their life. And if they want to, they can go and get it, and they can be successful, and it's up to them. It's no one else's responsibility. Their path is their own.
Exactly. Exactly. Having that ownership, that sense of control, which is empowerment, right? When your daughter is, I talk about it, driving your own bus, being in your own lane, you making the own decisions, you have your values, you have, the ways that you're wanting to do business, the way you treat people, the way you expect to be treated, all of these requirements actually is empowering, so that you're not reactive. Right. That's what I'm hearing from your conversation, that when we devalue that, or we don't own that, we blow in the wind, right? We easily get led astray. We can be very reactive. And when you then put that into a business framework, that's when those crazy decisions get made. And then you go, why did I do that? Because you're under pressure.
Right.
right? Because you were desperate, because you wanted someone to pick you, even though you knew you was out of your area of expertise. And these
Right.
things happen all the time. So I absolutely love that. What has been your biggest challenges then as a woman of color progressing? Have you, what are the differences for those of those listening in? I'm not a woman of color. What is the different experience that you actually feel that you have had to navigate in your journey to success?
I think my biggest challenge has been recognizing when people's intentions are authentic in comparison to performative. And there is a huge difference in the energy behind the interactions, to where someone wants me to be in a space because they are genuinely interested in my perspective, and they do value the space of diversity, and they honor my voice and they want to be heard and they actually do genuinely want to learn, versus someone that invites me into a certain arena in order to check a box, right? I think that this year has been my word for this year was authentic, because at the beginning of my journey, I was excited about being invited to the table and not necessarily evaluating the table that I was sitting at. I was just saying
Wow.
yes,
Yes.
right? But now I'm more intentional. I take a step back. I don't act out of excitement, but I act out of discernment. Is this a
Mm.
place that I will actually be valued as a woman of color, as Alexandria, as a person who has a capability to add value in this arena? And I ask myself those questions. Then I ask myself, do I have the time? And do I believe in what it is that I'm being invited to cultivate in this space? I ask myself questions now, and that's something that I've learned. But the journey has been wonderful, and even when I've been invited in a certain arena and it didn't align with me, I still learned something beautiful from it,
Sure.
right? So
Sure.
everything that happens ends up being a beautiful tapestry of knowledge and learning, and identifying what I want to align with, what isn't for me, what is my message, does this align with my purpose? It is always ever changing.
Mm.
So my challenge has been identifying that, and being like I said, my word is authentic, being authentically
Mm.
Alexandria, and and being comfortable in those spaces. So yeah.
Oh, I love the way you've articulated it, that. And for those listening in, hear the words that Alexandria has just shared. It's all about saying, I don't want to be just at the table. I don't want to be the token woman on in your board or committee, or, in this, even in this speaking opportunity. I don't want to be the token woman of color to tick that box as well. I don't actually even want to just sit at the table, as we talk about in business, be there. I don't want to just be there. I actually want my voice heard for all the right reasons. And it's not saying you want your voice heard over anyone else. It's actually saying, and it's not just to be heard, it actually, you've clearly articulated that you know what value you're bringing to the table. You know what you have to offer. So if that is a win-win, if you're wanting what I bring, and then I'm at the table, I want my voice to be heard, because you want to actually facilitate change. You want to be engaged. You want to be authentic. And how can you be, your word of the year, authentic, if that is restricted, if they only want a piece of you, right?
Exactly. And that was the initiative, that was the entire thought process behind starting Alexandria Nicole Consulting,
Hmm.
because I wanted to be in spaces to help people kind of identify their blind spots, and then we can work on it together. But it's so much bigger than just being a woman of color. It's about honoring people that are typically ignored, or not intentionally ignored, but maybe left out. That's people that's other abled. I don't say disabled because it's a negative connotation with that. So I
Mm-hmm.
say people that are other abled. How much representation do you have in your marketing? Do you have a woman that's other abled, wheelchair bound, someone that has Down syndrome, Do you have women of color, right? Because the world does not only consist of Eurocentric people. It is
Yes.
a beautiful collective of so many people, and all of those people deserve to feel welcomed and they deserve to be represented in marketing. So
Mm.
that's why I started my company, is to help people see, because sometimes people just don't know what they don't know. They
Yeah.
can only see through their vantage point, right?
Mm.
So sometimes people are just genuinely curious and honestly didn't know they were leaving anyone out. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't from a space of malice. It just was that blind spot that they didn't really recognize. And it's funny because now it teaches me things too. I'm now open to a completely different way of thinking. Me and my husband, we went down to Florida and we were walking on the boardwalk, and they had these steps that went down into the ocean. And I thought, my first thought was, man, that water is beautiful. I'd love to walk down these steps. My second thought was, they should really have a mechanism that you could turn that will make all the steps align so someone that is in a wheelchair could just roll down into the water. So you know what I mean? I'm thinking outside of my own perspective and my own situation,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, because that's exactly what you want to do. One, gorgeous. And what, wouldn't it be wonderful if once we, continue to progress opportunities like that, that everyone has the opportunity to share those experiences, and we should
Right.
definitely do that. I think it is wonderful when we can look at our own businesses or our own life and actually take that step back and go, are we presenting it in a way that everyone else gets to receive the full blessing that we're trying to offer? So what I mean by that is, if people are out there and they don't see someone like them represented, in your business, in the services that you provide, in the opportunities that you have to give them, then that's right. It's sad for you as a businesswoman because you've actually missed that opportunity, but it's extremely sad, and it compounds that effect. I think that they'll then go, okay, well, there's no place for me here. Whereas actually
Right.
there could be. Sometimes it is just the marketing. And I love what you've shared there, that's right. Your marketing must represent all people. If your service does provide that to all people, we need to be a lot more diverse in the way we represent our businesses, but also not just from the, it's not as if you just want to have the image of diversity and not back it up. When
Right.
someone then
Right.
sees that bit of marketing, what do they receive? Do they actually receive an equal experience? Right.
Right. So it goes beyond the marketing. It's about restructuring the culture as well,
Yes.
because it's easy to do a call of action and have a bunch of diverse people show up for a modeling campaign to restructure the marketing.
Yeah.
But how, once you've invited people with your marketing and those people start to show up, that's where the culture kicks in. Will
Yes.
you still make these people feel welcome in this environment,
Mhm.
or will you just welcome them and then they feel alienated once they've arrived? So we have to change everything, you
Yes.
know?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do know. And not just the way they feel, also the way they are acknowledged and financially rewarded, right? So this is where we actually look at the, pay gap disparities and things of that nature, that we, if you're invited equally, you should also be compensated equally from financially, but you should also have an equal voice to be heard, equal opportunity to be represented in not just a voice, but the time and the engagement opportunities in that space as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Awesome. So as the chair of the Breckenridge Equity Advisory Commission, what does that role actually help you? What does that look like for those listening in? How does someone in your position progress change in this area?
Well, when I was sitting on the board, I've actually stepped down because that was another one of the experiences that I realized I didn't align with. I was so
Mhm.
excited about it. I was voted with my counterparts to become chair.
Yeah.
And I really realized that I serve better at a grassroots level.
Okay.
Oh yes, I'm someone that loves to be on the ground, making difference. I don't like the kind of separation that the political arena poses. And I realized that that was not for me. And I continue on with the solidarity talks that are now going nationwide.
Yeah.
But when I was there, the intention of it was to advise our local government on various ways that they can make tangible actions to allow everyone to feel welcome. I
Mm-hmm.
just think that for me, the political arena was not the thing that God had for me, and I bowed out gracefully.
Oh, I thank you for sharing that, because many of the listeners will think, gee, everyone always wants to get to the top, right? And then once you're the chair, then you get all this power and you can do things, and that's it. Sometimes you go, you know what, I am there, but it's not, I actually do. I prefer to work at grassroots. I want to be with the people. I actually want to stay more aligned to my specific niche or the reasons that I want to do that. And then, like anything, it's even like when you run your own business, and then it can be lonely at the top, or you can then miss the opportunities of doing the things that you actually love all the time,
Yes,
because it turns more into
yes,
politics, management of the business, or the what you're trying to achieve, as opposed to, from I can hear very clearly, for you it's all about the solidarity talks, right? It's actually about equipping women to be able to have their voice heard, change things in a progressive way for society.
yes, absolutely. And the beautiful thing about the solidarity talks is it's a community conversation that we pick a topic and everyone gathers and we discuss it, and we it's a space created for everyone to express themselves, because I think one of the biggest problem in society is people have kind of gotten into this space of complaining but feeling powerless. And
Mm,
there's so much power in allowing a safe space for people to come and ask questions that typically you wouldn't ask at the dinner table, or
mhm.
it's not the proper setting, or someone's concerned about misspeaking. We have really hard discussions about, racial aspects, socioeconomic things, the classism. We talk about it. And in these moments, we have to have grace with people as well, because a lot of times people don't have the language. Like a solidarity talk I had 2 years ago, a woman said colored, but that was specifically because she didn't have the language. The intention was beautiful, the question was authentic, her heart was caring. She genuinely just didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
So instead of me being angry about her choice of words because she has the lack of the language, I decide to listen to the intention behind the question and answer her with grace. So we're also building these bridges and creating unity in situations where people may typically get angry,
Mm.
but those are the choices that we make. Are we going to consider, are we going to learn and listen and be compassionate to someone's language? Or are we going to go in the other direction and be combative and argue and get nowhere, right? So we have these
Absolutely,
meetings.
absolutely.
It's beautiful. We have these meetings and we do a free clothes giveaway. I collect donations all year round, and they're beautiful pieces, Coach and Patagonia. And then people that the underserved communities, they come and they get what they want free of charge. We do the same thing with food. So
Uh,
not only are we talking about strategic measures to make things better, but we're doing the work as well. And that's what I connect with.
Exactly, because talk will only get you so far. Often it's the talk that has to be navigated very carefully, because that's where there is past hurt, there's past anger, there's past resentment, there's disappointment, there's I've tried this 50 times before and I won't be heard. It's like a wall can be built up. And then when you have people of increased diversity, it can be a recipe for a lot of as you said, frustrations, and sometimes it can be just because they can have a distorted perspective because of their lived
Right,
journey, right? And that's
right, right.
understandable. And so with these talks, and sometimes, one, it's a brave position to actually moderate that, because it is a really high level skill to be able to allow people from very different perspectives to be have their say, be heard without other people taking it the wrong way, being sensitive, automatically being reactive. And I love what you mentioned there, that you actually just listen into the intent, because I think anyone who comes to one of your meetings, one of your solidarity talks, is actually saying, I know I need this. I want my voice to be heard. I want, but not just talk. They actually want action, right? So talk without action is, it's hopeless, really. It's all right just to say, yes, we all understand how frustrating and unequal things are. We actually want to then be able to do something about it. So I actually love where you've positioned yourself, because you want it, all of that to be heard, but then you want to actually do. So you give away clothes, you give away food. What are the other ways that you can help people to actually progress in their situation, to actually, remove the restrictions that are on certain people in their walks of life?
I think that the best way that people can do that is really focus on compassionate listening
Mm.
and respectful conversation. We have to, as people, as adults, as children, as a collective of human beings, we have to get to a place where we can converse and understand that I may disagree with you, but that does not mean I hate you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We've gotten to this place where we feel as if you don't share the exact same opinion that I do, you're my enemy.
Mm.
And that's why I invite people, I invite them to bring their children, because I think it's important for the children to see us converse as adults and do so in a way that's not combative.
Mm.
I don't allow any language at the talks because I don't want anything to happen to make someone feel as if they have to put a barrier up.
Mm.
And sometimes if there's some cursing or something, then somebody's going to shut down. If
Yes.
there's some type of disrespectful language, then a person's going to be like, well, I can never bring my children here again. So I try to create this atmosphere to where it's safe for everyone, so
Mm.
that we are hopefully moving forward in our generation with the people that, are in our age group, but also influencing the children,
Mm.
and letting them see that we can talk, and that we are a community of people, and we are definitely a lot more alike than we are different.
Yes, we've just got a different perspective on things, right? And that's completely understandable, and it should be. I think I work with lots of boards, and we'll be encouraging diversity for that reason, that you should actually be assuming that you will politely disagree with opinion, but with that collective, with that diversity actually comes the power. It comes the power of the position that you're going to go forward, because it actually is therefore truly representative. It would be unlikely or wrong if everybody agreed with, a position on something, right? Because it just doesn't make sense. So once you actually play it out from going, oh, okay, well, if you don't agree with me, you're being, racist, or you're not listening to me, or you're being rude, or you're being angry, and all of these responses, you just go, oh, thank you for sharing your opinion. I have a different opinion, but I totally respect that, because you actually want people to have a position on things. We will be diverse. We will have different perspectives on things, whether it's on the environment, whether it's in business, in religion, in politics. That's right. Once we can get past the anger and the reactive sort of responses, you can then suddenly get to a whole different space, which is what you're trying to create with your passion of empowering people to really recognize their strengths and to use that collective power of humanity, right? To actually.
Yes, and I think we too frequently see people when they disagree, it gets to be ugly.
Yeah.
And that's, if you see so much of that on social media and television, and all of these other outlets of entertainment, if you feel like that's the only way that people are exchanging ideas, it is from a space of aggression, then that's what you believe. You start to believe that's what humanity is. You start to feel defeated and think, well, that's just what we've become. And
Mm.
I think that there's a sense of hopelessness that's attached to that. and then we really start to deteriorate and continue
It's
to
so.
proceed down this path. And I don't want to be a part of this world without at least trying to contribute to our greater good.
Mm, mm. And you're doing a fantastic job at that. Your footprint is amazing, and I just so totally honor you here on this program for the work that you're doing. Absolutely incredible. I think one of the most important thing is, that's right, for those watching, you know, that when you have got yourself to a position of power, you know, of influence, you're in these positions, we both are, that there are many people watching, and there's generations, you know, those generations after us who are watching, that they're wanting to be hopeful, you know, even if they get to the position of going, okay, well, we're all not going to get our way, but they want to have hope that they can be respected, they can be heard, that change will happen. Change might take time, but they actually see, okay, but I believe it to occur in, you know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, even in my lifetime. Most people are even happy with that, right? If we get gender equality, you know, in my lifetime on positions, and we don't suddenly have to even be talking about 50% rules, you know, I'll be really happy. I don't expect it to happen overnight. If I actually went to a position, they shouldn't have to even write that we accept people of all sort of backgrounds. It should be assumed, right? So
Right.
once we actually have these, you know, I've got daughters and now even granddaughters coming through, I want them to be able to look and think, okay, well, things are possible and likely and probable, right? So it goes from possible to probable, if we actually all treat each other in this way. Who,
Yes.
who supports you then, Alexandria? How do you actually get in a position that you can get clothing from Coach and other businesses? Who provides this food? What is the army behind you? And how do you actually use your skills to be able to create this opportunity for others?
Well, the beautiful thing about it is I recognize that it's a community effort. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all the people in the community here of Colorado, and they pretty much know what I do, and I'll reach out to someone on various platforms if they have a bag of baby's clothes or shoes or young adults clothes, you know, they'll either reach out to me or I'll reach out to them and said, "Hey, I'll take that for the solidarity talks." And I like to hang the clothes up so it's an experience with dignity.
Mm,
Because not only are we giving someone a gift of the material things, you want to also deliver it in a way to where they feel honored and respected as well, right? Because
mm.
it's one thing to just throw a bunch of clothes on a table, whether they're folded or unfolded. It's kind of like, here, you can rummage through. You
Yeah,
see the difference? Like,
I
here you
do.
go. You're
Yeah.
lesser than anyway. No.
You want
I
to go to
hang
the
him
racks
up.
like it's a store.
Right. I do. I hang them up on racks. I create an actual shopping experience to where they can take whatever they want. And it's so funny because people can't believe that it charges nothing. And I'm like, no, it's for you. My favorite situation was a talk that I had in 2021, and it was two pairs of Columbia hiking boots. And it was a family walking by, and they were about to go have some dinner. I said, "Hey, come on and get whatever you need. Everything's free." And the mom is the first one over, of course.
Yeah.
And she's browsing, and her two sons tried on the boots. The older son tried on a pair, and her younger son tried on a pair, and they both fit the boys perfectly.
Wow.
And just the joy that that mother had in that moment of like, oh my God, now I don't have to buy boots. This has been on my mind. And she was just overjoyed. You know what I mean? That moment will always stay with me because it was such a beautiful moment of how kismet what we're doing can be for someone else. You
Mm.
know, it's beautiful
Oh,
to see.
it is so beautiful, and that's, you know, that's you know, driving your why. Those moments of actually, you know, it's so worth it, you know. And often we can be thinking, well, does it make a difference? You know, it's just a pair of boots. But I tell you what, just a pair of boots for that person, they can remember that forever, whether it's a pair of boots or a pretty pair of little red shoes for a little girl, or even be given a toy, a tiara or something to feel like a princess for a day. These seeds that we actually put into people's lives, it's always amazing to me, and I've had them in my life, and I can recognize key moments that someone said one thing or just went out of their way to bless me in one way, and I just went, wow, I felt so honored, or I felt respected, or I felt appreciated or valued. And particularly when you're coming from a place that you actually feel a lack of value, from the circumstances that people are at. It's not an equal playing field, when you actually feel worthless, and it might be because you're in you might be unemployed, you might be homeless, you might be having issues of domestic violence, you might have just, suffered certain amount of abuse that you're living with, and you're putting on this brave face day in, day out, and sometimes the evidence is even obvious. And so when someone actually goes and says, you know what, just try on those boots, and if they fit you, they're yours. No wonder that mum's like, wow, you would have just put a spring in her step. Oh, thank goodness, I feel blessed. Someone cares about me in this world, and that can be enough. That can be enough for her to then go and, spend her time, instead of worrying about, shoes for her kids. It can be her saying, okay, well, I'm going to apply for that extra job, or I'm going to work on, I'm going to say thank you for that outfit, and I'm going to use it to, go for an interview or do something. You never know how someone is going to accept that gift, So
Exactly. And it's
I
so
love
beautiful you use the word seeds, because I have two perspectives about the seeds that I'm sowing. One is I would love to be able to see the fruits of my labor. I
it.
would love to be able to see the goodness and the intention behind the work that I'm doing manifest in within this century that I'm living in.
Mm.
But I've also, on the flip side, become comfortable with the fact that I may not sit under the tree and receive shade from the seeds that I'm planting.
Mm.
So either way, I know that what I'm doing is impactful, because I love what I'm doing. I feel like I'm called to do it. I'm purpose driven. I'm this solidarity talk. We have our first one coming up May 14th, and I've collaborated with the National Honor Society at the high school. And just the bags of clothes and the joy that they have when they're loading it up. And then I go with my husband and I unload it, and I go through the clothes, and I'm determining, well, these clothes are going to go to this location. These are going to go to this. And it's so fulfilling and so wonderful that I don't even recognize or acknowledge how labor intensive it is,
Yeah.
because I don't care. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because it's a joy, right? When
Right.
something's a joy, and I know I love the way, yeah, you're for purpose, totally for purpose. You are a heartfelt warrior woman, like, oh, absolutely love absolutely every bit of your core being, because then it's not
Thank
work.
you.
It's not work, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, I get the opportunity, instead of doing something, oh, here I've got to put clothes on racks. Just like, oh my gosh, I get the opportunity to make this look so beautiful, so that when someone comes in and sees it, they just
Yes.
feel blessed, they feel valued, they feel honored, they feel like they've got that extra bit of positive energy to go about their week. That's the difference, right? That's when you
Right,
know
right.
you're totally, in your zone, in your space. You're just following your God's calling, right? Your inner essence in the right way, because then, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you get tired, but you get fueled with a different kind of energy, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You
And
also
just
attract,
not wanting
yeah.
yes. And not wanting to be complacent, and just someone that is unsatisfied with the way the world is, and just become comfortable with complaining. If
Mm-hmm.
I feel like something isn't right and I'm capable to do something to change it, I will. People ask me, well, what organization are you with, or what is your background? I'm like, I'm just a person that wanted to do something. Like me and my husband, we did a deep fried turkey giveaway for Thanksgiving last year. And people are like, well, are you marketing your company? I said, no, I didn't even want our company mentioned, because I don't want it to be misconstrued for some type of
Yeah.
marketing ploy, or that we're associated with doing something from a space of personal gain. It's about an example for our daughters. It's about getting someone a turkey who may not have had it, and just the stories and just hearing how much it meant to people, especially in the height of COVID. It was more than the turkey, right? It's
Yeah.
love as well. It's saying, I see you. I honor your struggle. You can tell me what it is or not tell me what it is, but here's something to just make your life easier for this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's humanity, right? It's
Humanity. Yes, Annie.
humanity, and we need more humanity. When that person, that's right, is sitting there, they might have COVID, they might have been isolated for a very long period of time. They've got the TV on, and there's all happy stories, happy families eating their roast, turkey or whatever. And so the narrative in their head can be a very, very sad narrative, the way they speak to themselves or the way they look at the world. So when you then just go and say, hey, here's some beautiful, home cooked fried chicken for you, it can actually make the difference. And also people are skeptical, and they are, which is unfortunate, right? And I've certainly had that. It's like, well, what are you getting out of it? Or are you just using?
Oh yeah, the ulterior motive.
Oh
People
my gosh,
can't.
I'm currently giving out $300,000 worth of scholarship programs to my coaching program
Yes.
for entrepreneurs. And I've had a couple of people go, oh, so, is it more about marketing? I'm going, I'm giving away product. Like, oh, wow. So it's a bit hard to offer it without it then being linked, but it's like, wow. But it also shows me that they're not sort of, anti-me. They're actually just, people are skeptical. They're skeptical about humanity now, which is actually really sad, but understandable, because once again, the prism that they look at life has been distorted, or it actually is real for them. Maybe their reality is that it has been absolutely horrendous, and it is unacceptable, and it's understanding. So I think what
Absolutely.
you're doing
Those people have been beaten down to the point that they can't even recognize the
yeah,
good.
and they'll
And
therefore
that's
go,
what we're
what's the
doing.
catch?
We're
They're
trying
looking for
to
the catch.
we're trying to reverse that hopelessness, right? That's why we do what we do, is because we are trying to just show people love, and unconditional love. You don't have to do anything to receive this gift.
Mm.
Just receive. And people are like, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly. What's the catch? What do I have to
Right,
really do?
right.
Are you going to make me pay for it later? Are you going to take my
Right.
car as compensation?
The
Like,
skepticism is real,
it's
but
real.
we
It's
have to
real.
forge forward, right? We have to forge forward, because we are blessing people, and we are planting those seeds, and hopefully contributing to some type of human shift of goodness.
Yeah. And I love that phrase, human shift of goodness. And with that will come, laws of attraction will come in, that people see you and they go, oh, okay, this woman is just doing it just because of love, just because, she's purpose driven, just because she wants to change the world. It will attract, it'll give an opportunity to attract other people who go, oh, okay, well, at least there's a way I can help, I can add value. So many people aren't, in fact, most people aren't the leaders, they aren't the initiators. But if you give them an opportunity to actually help, and also to have that gratitude when someone blesses you, it might not be this week, it might be in 5 years or 10 years time, that person says, you know what, I was always thankful, and that moment that Alexandria gave me those shoes for my sons, I'm in a better place now, and I want to actually be able to do my own version of humanity, right? So that's right, you sometimes, it's not that you expect, which is very unmodern, today. We always expect instant gratification and instant reward. If I give you this, what will you give me back? This transaction, right? Whereas actually it's not, it's like, no, it is to be unconditional. It says, I give it to you, this moment, this opportunity, this gift, actually completely unconditional. I don't expect anything back. I'm actually assuming if you take it in the right way, oh my gosh, many, many more people will probably be blessed, because that's the way it should be. When you are so thankful, you want to actually, most people deep down want to then go, oh my gosh, someone blessed me once, I want to keep blessing others, because it does change your life. But it's not conditional to that, and we can't also time that You know, it may be tomorrow they go suddenly, oh my gosh, I feel so good, I want to bless someone. Or it might be in 5 years, 10 years, or maybe never. Maybe that person never actually got to that place, and that's
But
okay
you tried. But you
because you
tried.
tried,
And
right?
it's so true. I was just having this conversation with my husband about a CEO that when I was in the corporate world and before I started my entrepreneurial journey, it was a CEO who had really taken me under his wing, and he'd call me into his office and he dropped these wonderful spiritual nuggets on me. And this was before my walk with Christ and before I was saved. My husband actually baptized me in 2017. And he would talk about God and grace and all these various things that I just be in his office like, yeah, okay. And I had no idea what he was talking about. It didn't resonate with me. I always was intentional about being a good person and having a good heart and giving, but it wasn't based on the foundation of God like it is now. But I oftentimes think back to that, which would have to be our daughter was just born. So 12 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
he planted seeds in me that at that time I didn't receive, didn't understand, didn't connect with. But now, 12 years later, I still think about him. I think about some of the things that he said pertaining to grace. And now, in this day and age, it resonates with me. And
Exactly.
he may or may not even think about me and moved on with his life, but I think about him.
Yeah.
And I think about some of the beautiful things that he says, but it took a decade for
Mhm.
it to really connect with me. So you're right. Sometimes it is delayed gratification. You may feel like, the energy that you put into something specifically just, went unheard or didn't really make a difference in that person's life. But the
Mm.
fact of the matter is, it very well could be down the road. It could touch that person's heart when it's meant to.
Exactly. And it's when it's meant to, right? You can't rush other people's journeys, right? It's got to resonate with them authentically for their own journey, their own timing, their own situation. And sometimes it's the unexpected things. Sometimes, for me, particularly as a coach, I give out all this really important information. And sometimes it can be something that you actually just say ad hoc, or it could be a text that you sent or a voice message or something. And they go, that changed my life because I needed to hear that then. And you're like, wow. And I thought I gave you all that wisdom, just say.
But it's this one off the fly thing that just turned the
It's like,
switch.
I'm keeping that Annie quote on my voice recorder. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So I think that's what it's about. It's actually just positioning ourselves. If we're wanting to champion change, in equity, equality, diversity, and inclusion, if we're wanting to champion women and therefore their families in their personal and their professional lives to be able to inherit a better world, in the future for themselves and for those after them, then we actually need to have these conversations, and I love our conversation today, these conversations about, what, I'll just do my thing. I'll do it my way, and even to go, yeah, I got this chair position. And you know what? I realized I wasn't a chair. I didn't want to do all this stuff. I actually want to be able to be more true to who I am, which I think is really important to the listeners, that often people think it's always, we're always trying to climb to the, the front facing, top of the tree, the head of the mountain, top of the mountain. And not always. Many of us are actually just wanting to be helpful, be useful, be heard, be able to be a cog in the wheel of change, and to be able to be a blessing to other people. And then, with that, when you're actually in your niche, which you clearly are, then the other things that you're doing, with your Alexandria Nicole business, with your Summit Solidarity Talk opportunities, they're also perfectly aligned, because you haven't had to struggle. You haven't had to sell. Actually, people just go, you know what, Alexandria Nicole, she just does it. She just, it's just so natural. It's an attraction, right? Because you're not trying to sell something that people don't see. They actually go, I see you. I see the evidence of your work. I see your heart just palpating, as you do your job, because people watch a lot more, and therefore they then see that there is an opportunity that they can join a movement. And so I thank you for your time today. I thank you for showing us that you can, pretty much, I know there's an army of people who help you behind the scenes. There always is. It definitely takes a team, but it also takes someone to really believe in believe in change, believe things are possible, and to back it up day in, day out when it can be really challenging, right?
Yes, yes. And I'd like to leave this with you too, is it doesn't take a title. It takes a lot of other things to achieve greatness, but you don't have to have a title to be a leader.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So how do people reach out to you, Alexandria Nicole? They've listened to this. They go, you know what? I'm in your area, Colorado area. I'd love to help you. Or I actually want to just work out, do you have a website? How do they connect with you? Of course, I'll put everything on my podcast platform and my YouTube channel, but how would you like them to contact you?
Absolutely. I could be reached on Instagram and Facebook at The Real Alexandria Nicole, or I could be reached in my email address, which is beinclusive@anconsultingfirm.org.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll put those details on my platform so people will be able to reach out to you, and just know that, everyone listening in, definitely me and my Women's Business Tribe, we're all big fans. We're all big fans, and we just salute you for the work that you do. And I look forward to hearing about, your future journey. And I encourage people to go onto Amazon, buy the Entrepreneur's Checklist, make it easy for yourself. And I'll certainly be telling people in my business incubator groups, why not learn from other people's lived experiences, and we don't have to make it so hard. It's all right to actually just say thank you. So thanks for being on my show today.
Thank you, Annie. I appreciate it. I do hope I added value today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes, and of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.